Last Christmas Eve, I watched my mother arrange the holiday centerpiece with the same meticulous precision she applied to everything in her life. Each pine cone set at the exact angle she deemed appropriate, each ribbon curled to the perfect degree. My father stood by the fireplace in his custom suit, swirling his scotch while discussing market trends with my brother Marcus. The scene was picture perfect, as always. The Bennett family Christmas had to be flawless. Then Jake walked in carrying the pumpkin pie he'd spent all afternoon baking, flour still dusting the edge of his sweater, and I watched my mother's smile freeze in place. "Oh," she said, her voice dripping with that particular brand of disappointment she perfected over 40 years of country club luncheons. "How rustic." Jake didn't notice. He never did. That was one of the things I loved most about him. He smiled that genuine, warm smile that had made me fall for him 3 years ago at a community fundraiser, completely oblivious to the disdain radiating from my mother's carefully Botoxed forehead. "Made it from scratch, Mrs. Bennett. My grandmother's recipe. She always said Christmas isn't Christmas without something made with your own hands." My father barely glanced up from his conversation. Marcus smirked into his wine glass. We'd been married for 18 months, and my family still treated Jake like a temporary inconvenience. The boy from the wrong side of town who somehow managed to trick their daughter into a courthouse wedding. They hadn't attended the ceremony. Mother claimed she had a migraine. Father was closing a deal. Marcus didn't even bother with an excuse. Dinner was excruciating. My mother had seated Jake at the far end of the table, practically in the next room, while Marcus held court beside Father, discussing the family business. Bennett Industries had been manufacturing high-end commercial equipment for 3 generations. My grandfather had built it from nothing, my father had expanded it into a regional powerhouse, and Marcus was being groomed to take over. "The Riverside contract is nearly closed," Marcus announced, helping himself to more of the catered prime rib. Everything was catered. Mother hadn't cooked in 20 years. "Once that's finalized, we're looking at expanding into the Southeast market." "Excellent work, son." Father's approval was a tangible thing, warm and golden. I'd spent my entire childhood chasing it. "Sarah, darling." Mother turned to me with that synthetic sweetness that meant danger. "How is Jake's little job going?" I felt Jake tense beside me. His little job was managing a warehouse for a logistics company. He worked 60-hour weeks, came home exhausted, but never complained. He was studying for his MBA at night, determined to build something better for us. "It's going well," I said carefully. "Jake just got promoted to senior operations manager." "How lovely," Mother said in a tone that meant the opposite. "And you, dear? Still working at that nonprofit?" "The nonprofit where I served as development director, raising millions for underprivileged children." But in my mother's world, if it didn't make money, it didn't matter. "Still changing lives," I replied, matching her saccharine tone. Marcus laughed, and not kindly. "Must be nice. Playing charity worker while Dad's money keeps you comfortable." Jake's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. "Don't engage," the squeeze said. "They're not worth it." But Father wasn't done. He set down his fork with deliberate precision. "Sarah, your mother and I have been meaning to discuss something with you. Marcus is taking on more responsibility at Bennett Industries. We're restructuring some of our expenditures." My stomach dropped. "What kind of expenditures?" "Well," Mother said delicately, "you're a married woman now. Surely your husband should be providing for you rather than relying on your trust fund." The trust fund my grandfather had established for me. The money that was legally mine. "We think it's time you learn to live within your means," Father continued. "Your husband's means." Jake's jaw clenched. "I provide for my wife just fine, Mr. Bennett." The silence that followed was arctic. "Do you?" Father turned his full attention to Jake for the first time that evening. "You manage a warehouse. You live in a rented apartment. Sarah grew up in a 7-bedroom estate. Forgive me if I question your definition of providing." "Dad," I started, but Marcus cut me off. "Come on, Sarah. What did you expect? You married a nobody. Mom and Dad are just trying to help you face reality." A nobody. The word hung in the air like smoke. Jake stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. His face was calm, but I could see the muscle working in his jaw. "Thank you for dinner, Mrs. Bennet. Mr. Bennet, I think Sarah and I should be going." "Jake," I began. "It's okay, Sarah." His voice was steady, but his eyes were dark with hurt. "Your family's made their position clear." We left in silence. Jake's pie sat untouched on the sideboard. The drive home was quiet. Jake stared out the window at the Christmas lights blurring past, his hand resting on the gear shift. I wanted to apologize, to explain, to somehow make it better. But what could I say? That my family were snobs. He knew that. That they'd never accepted him? He knew that too. "I'm sorry," I finally whispered as we pulled into our apartment complex. Jake turned to me, and his expression softened. "You have nothing to apologize for, Sarah. You didn't say those things." "They did. I should have defended you more. You defend me every day." He reached over and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "You chose me over their approval. You chose our life over their money." That's defense enough, but I could see the wound in his eyes. Nobody. The word had burrowed under his skin. That night, lying in our modest bedroom in our rented apartment, I made a decision. My trust fund was mine, and I was going to use it. Not to prove anything to my parents, but to invest in the man who'd stood by me when my family wouldn't. "Jake," I said into the darkness, "what would you do if money wasn't an object?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I'd start my own logistics company. There's so much inefficiency in the industry. I have ideas, systems that could revolutionize how we handle supply chain management. But starting a business requires capital and you have a wife with a trust fund." "Sarah, no, that's your money. Your security." "It's our money, our security." I rolled over to face him. "I believe in you, Jake. I've watched you work miracles with a fraction of the resources you need. Imagine what you could do with real backing. Your family would never forgive you. My family called you a nobody tonight. I'm done caring what they think." We talked until dawn, Jake's excitement building as he outlined his vision. He'd been developing this plan for 2 years, refining it during his MBA courses, testing concepts at his current job. He just needed capital and the courage to leap. 2 days after Christmas, I walked into my bank and transferred a significant portion of my trust fund into a new business account. Jake gave his notice and threw himself into building his company. He called it Summit Logistics, because he said that's where we were heading, to the top. Those first 6 months were brutal. Jake worked 18-hour days. We lived on ramen and hope. My phone calls from Mother went from weekly guilt trips to daily lectures about my foolishness. Marcus sent me memes about failed startups. Father didn't call at all. But Jake was brilliant. He'd identified gaps in the market that bigger companies ignored, inefficiencies they'd accepted as normal. He built relationships with small manufacturers who were tired of being treated as afterthoughts by larger logistics firms. He implemented technology solutions that cut costs while improving service. His first major client was a mid-sized manufacturing company that Bennett Industries had recently dropped for being too small to bother with. Jake gave them better service at a better price. They referred him to 3 other companies. Then 5 more. By month 8, Summit Logistics had 15 clients and 5 employees. By month 10, Jake had to lease a larger facility. The MBA he'd earned through night school suddenly had a proving ground. And he was validating every theory, every concept, every innovative idea he'd ever had. I watched him transform. Not into someone different, but into the fullest version of himself. The man who'd been constrained by other people's limited vision was finally operating without restrictions. It was like watching a runner finally get out of starting blocks. My family's silence was deafening. I'd stopped attending their monthly dinners. Mother left voicemails I didn't return. Marcus sent occasional texts that oscillated between mockery and fake concern. Father communicated only through his lawyer, making vague noises about imprudent financial decisions. I didn't care. I came home every night to a husband who was exhausted but alive in a way he'd never been before. We were building something together, and it was ours. Then, in month 11, Jake came home early with an odd expression on his face. "What's wrong?" I asked immediately. "Nothing's wrong." He sat down heavily on our second-hand couch. Sarah, you know how Bennett Industries has been struggling lately?
I didn't actually. I'd stopped following their news.
Marcus overextended on that Southeast expansion. Jake continued. Took on too much debt. Then they lost 3 major clients to competitors. Your father's been trying to sell for 6 months, but nobody wants to take on their debt load and outdated systems. My heart began to pound. Jake, what are you saying? He looked up at me with eyes that were equal parts disbelief and determination. Summit's doing well, really well. We've got the capital now. And I've got investors who believe in my vision for the future. He paused. Sarah, I'm in a position to make an offer on Bennett Industries. I sat down hard. You want to buy my family's company? I want to save it. The company your grandfather built deserves better than to be run into the ground by people who stopped innovating a decade ago. Those workers, the ones your father would lay off to cut costs, they deserve job security, and honestly, he reached for my hand. I want to prove to your family that the nobody they dismissed sees value where they lost sight of it. The offer went in 3 days later. Jake wasn't vindictive. His terms were fair, generous even, considering Bennett Industries' financial situation. He'd absorb their debt, maintain their workforce, and integrate their manufacturing capabilities with Summit's logistics network. It was a smart business move that would benefit everyone involved. My father called me for the first time in 10 months. Tell your husband this isn't funny. It's not meant to be funny.
Dad, it's a legitimate offer. That boy is trying to steal my company. That man is trying to save your company.
You've been trying to sell for half a year. He's offering you a way out that preserves grandfather's legacy and keeps everyone employed. I won't be humiliated like this. But he was already humiliated.
The business community knew Bennett Industries was failing. They knew Marcus had made catastrophic decisions.
Taking Jake's offer was father's best option, possibly his only option. The negotiations took 6 weeks. Jake was patient, professional, and ruthlessly fair. He brought in lawyers and accountants who'd worked with him on Summit's growth.
Every meeting, every conference call, he demonstrated not just business acumen but a deep understanding of manufacturing and logistics that my
father and Marcus simply didn't possess. Marcus tried to fight it. He leaked stories to business journals, tried to paint Jake as an opportunistic outsider.
But the facts didn't support his narrative.
Jake was a successful entrepreneur making a sound business decision.
Marcus was the executive who'd nearly destroyed a 3-generation legacy. Which brings us to last week.
December 20th. 1 year and a week after that horrible Christmas dinner. My parents had requested a final meeting before signing the papers. Jake agreed, gracious as always. They wanted to meet at the Bennett estate, the house I'd grown up in.
I think they hoped the setting would give them some psychological advantage.
We drove through the familiar gates as the winter sun set behind us.
The house was decorated for Christmas again, but something felt different. The decorations looked desperate this time, like someone trying too hard to pretend everything was fine.